All right, hey, welcome back, guys. It's been a while since I've done a video, and the last one was talking about this Sir Standard and the unboxing of it. So you can kind of hear my reasoning for that on this last video. I'll put a link to it over here, and you can kind of watch that and see why I bought this one when it's so similar to this one hanging on the wall here. This is a Sir Standard, that's a Sir Standard Pro. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I am not a preset guy as far as like buying presets. I generally dial them in on my own because I like to configure my own sound. And for the most part, my presets are very simple. Usually a core amp tone. And generally for me, I'm a product of the 80s, the big hair metal stuff, some harder rock. So I'm your basic Marshall, Bogner, Friedman, all those kind of amps. Typically these presets you'll find in worship environments are using your Vox style amps, and this one's no different. What I did is I headed up to YouTube and typed in worship tutorials or worship presets. So of course the first thing you see is worshiptutorials.com. I've been on there and I've looked at some presets in the past. I know he was doing a lot of Line 6 Helix presets, and then he got an Axe-Fx. So now he's offering the best of both worlds. So if you're a Helix guy, you can use those. So what I wanted to do is rather than reinvent the wheel, I went up and I wanted to see what these were all about. The cool thing about it is, and I want to talk about it quickly, because for $4.99, you can head over there and you're out $4.99. I mean, it's really cheap. So if you don't like it, it's not like you've spent a ton of money. So if I go back up here, every one of these presets comes with a basic PDF that talks about how they're built for that specific song. I chose this Cornerstone one because really I chose it based off of a YouTube video and how well it sounded. I'm not familiar with the song. And I thought, hey, this could be a nice foundation for presets maybe that I want to try to build because it's outside of my wheelhouse. And the cool thing is he talks about updating your firmware. And everything's stock. You can put your own third-party IRs in there if you want, but it's pretty cool that everything is stock. And I know that when I do presets, a lot of times I've got third-party IRs, which I'm sure frustrates some of you guys. The FC12 functionality is built into this one. I definitely recommend backing up your presets in Axe Edit, and you can do that over here on the Edit menu in Axe Edit, and you can export all layouts or individual layouts. Definitely recommend doing that because he's got quite a bit of per preset ones filled in here. So let's go back to the FC controllers. I'm going to work off of this menu. This isn't an extensive review. I just bought this preset the other day, so I've had a lot of time to work with it, but I was pretty impressed about how it was laid out. And in this PDF, you'll see he talks about the signal flow. He's got quite a bit of things at your disposal with the channel, so he's giving you quite a bit of drives on each block. And what kind of made me decide to do this video was the fact I looked up here and I was like, wow, this is hovering at 75%. Everybody's always trying to max out the Axe-Fx and see what it can do. This is a good representation of that. You're never going to use all those all at once, but the cool thing about it is, and when we look at this PDF again, he's giving you things that basically he starts on channel A of most stuff to just say this is what he likes and what they like for the song. But you can come through here and experiment with different channels, and he's kind of laid them out here, giving you some ideas. So I think that's pretty cool. You're going to need to come in here, you're going to need to map your volume. So we're going to click over to Perform 1 here. I'll tell you about that in a second. Click out of the FC controllers. You're going to go into your volume. First thing you want to do is come over to the control over here. Right click on this and map it to your expression pedal. In this case, I've got an EV1 attached to the FC12 in the third input because I have a Mission Engineering in the first one, which is my wah. The last thing talks about where to level it. And I like to level it on the amp block. You can do it on the cab block, but I like to level things on the amp block. So let's go and do that now. I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to jump over to this FC controller so you can see where I'm going. He's got Perform 1 and Perform 2. Perform 1 is basically the layout of the song. Perform 2 is the effects that you can jump over to and control the individual effects. Perform 1, let's go back to that. I'm going to jump over to this Chorus Big, all right? And it is quite large and ambient. Too much for me probably. My volume pedal's turned all the way up, and we're going to activate this sucker here. And it goes on forever. So we're going to go over to the output and see where we're at. Maybe we go over to the big rip. So you see it's already clipping here, so I'm going to go back to the amp block and I'm going to take this down a little bit and we're going to see where I'm at. So I've got this leveled to the hottest part of the preset. So if I had a solo boost in here and had a 3 dB boost, I'd have to adjust that and make sure that my overall output level was right at 0 dB. And for other parts of the song, it's going to drop a little bit, but that's okay. It gives you some headroom. So don't level your presets for your quieter parts. So don't go in for your clean tone and say, well, that's quiet, I really need to hear it, you know. So if I take over this clean tone and I listen to it, and I watch it on the output, it's getting, you know, up to 0 dB, but, you know, some people may push it a little bit. So that's okay. You're going to start clipping at that point. All right, so enough of that. We're going to come over here. I'm going to put it back on the FC controllers, and I'm going to go through each one of these and kind of show you a couple things and how it sounds, and then we will end basically on me just kind of fiddling around, and you can kind of hear it in me flipping through. So this is what sold me on this preset, was the intro sound, the clean sound. On the video he was using, I think it was a Gretsch maybe with 2 humbuckers, so maybe a little hotter output than this. Actually the SSH is fairly hot. Hearing that, I was like, man, that's just a cool sound in general. And then let's go back. Let's take a look at what he's got going on here. A little bit of compressor here. It's using the studio compressor. Default settings generally around 2 for the ratio, which is adjust how much it's going to compress. Threshold, of course, is when it kicks in. Tack time is how fast it's going to attack that. And then release time, of course, how long it takes before the compressor just lets go. So that was the intro sound. Again, we've got the cab here at your stock deluxe 121 pan to the left, 121 mic, 57 pan to the right. Delays are running on top of each other, so they're not running into each other, and that's why you're going to stack them like this. And okay, let's go back to the amp, back to the FC controller so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go over to the channel swell. I'm not a swell guy. That sounds pretty cheesy. So you can do some cool things with that. Verse 2, which is over here, adds a little bit stronger delay to it, I believe. If we look over here back on what's going on, this is at dotted quarter. There is this verse tag. I don't think we need to go through that. It's just, I'll try it. What kind of sound is this? Looks like we've got a drive in here. Is there a drive on? Yes. You can tell that the CPU is really getting close here. Things don't quite respond as quickly as far as the blocks on AxeEdit. But what drive has he got? He's got the Tone of Kings. The King of Tone. I could have fun with that. That's pretty cool. Something to think about when you buy presets, if they sound fairly, I say, muddy or just not a lot of treble, because when you boost that volume live, all those highs, all those lows are going to come out due to the Fletcher-Munson thing. It's the Fletcher-Munson curve. And it's just the way our ears perceive things at lower volumes. And because they're still there, but when you turn up everything, those things come through. So I would imagine, I haven't played with this live, I would imagine this would do fairly well out to front of house. Next thing we've got, go back to FC controllers, and we're going to go to this chorus big, and we're going to make sure once again that I have leveled this correctly because I recorded it earlier and it was clipping. So let's go back to our output. Kind of reminds me of. Little Cars song. I didn't play it right, I know. So that was the big chorus in the song, but you know, for me, you know, this sound, it just doesn't have a lot of definition to it. So it's not something I would probably dial in personally, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work for this genre. So you can imagine if you've played in this kind of scenario, how well that would work with a big setting to make things sound super full. It depends on how many musicians you have, how many guitarists you have. If you're both using this kind of preset, it may get busy in the mix. So just keep that in mind. The next thing, the riff big was designed for a solo part, solo section. And messing with this earlier, I realized that this would be pretty crazy for me. My typical thing is I like to tie, which kind of limits me sometimes, but I like to tie the mix of a delay. Usually it's just one or two delays to an expression pedal. So when I kick it in for a solo, I can make it sound, you know, bigger, right? And then when I go back to rhythms, just kick it back. So I'm on this riff, and I'll show you how it sounds. It's pretty, the riff big is pretty big in ambient and very washed out. And go over to the, what are the instrument, maybe it's instrumental. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, we got the Crystal Echoes. This one says Inst Build. I don't know what that is. I'm sure if I read the PDF, it would tell me again. I like my tremolo, sorry. There we go. Sounds like an 80s song. I forgot the name of it. So there you have it. That is the Cornerstone WT preset worship tutorials. This one is 2.0. The cool thing is they do send out updates if they tweak these. They just did it last night, actually sent out this update and tweaked the sounds, made them sound a little bit better than the previous version I downloaded even last week. I'm going to end this up. We've got a couple more minutes till my camera shuts off at the 30-minute limit, and I'm just going to go through and just play a couple of things to end things out. You guys have a good week, and we'll talk at you later.